What if the reason you keep failing isn't because you're weak, but because you're still asking for permission to exist? What if, deep down, a silent part of you still waits to be allowed to rise, to lead, to be? Most people move through the world like echoes of someone else's voice, shaped by wounds they never chose. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the hidden self that sabotages us from within. You think you're making decisions, but you're actually dancing to the rhythm of unconscious patterns laid down by trauma, rejection, and ancient fear. Before we go further, take a second to like this video, leave a comment with your own experience, and subscribe to this channel if you're drawn to deep psychological truths, raw insights, and mental frameworks that challenge your view of life. This isn't just a video, it's a mirror. Here's the question no one dares to ask out loud: what would it look like to move through the world as if you were supreme, untouchable, above comparison, beyond doubt? Is that arrogance, or is it awakening? Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of becoming who you truly are. Viktor Frankl wrote that meaning is not found, it is forged in fire. And Machiavelli, cold and brilliant, whispered a truth we still fear: power does not wait for the moral or the meek, it belongs to those who take it. This isn't about becoming ruthless with others, it's about becoming ruthless with your own excuses. In this video, we'll dive into the dark water, into the core of identity, shame, and silent hunger for recognition. We'll explore why you hide, why you hesitate, and what it would mean to burn the mask, to recognize your supreme nature without needing anyone to validate it. Because maybe, just maybe, the only thing standing between you and your destiny is the quiet lie that says you're not enough. We crave greatness, but flinch when it looks us in the eye. We dream of power, of walking into a room and commanding respect without a word, yet we shrink at the first sign of disapproval. Why? Because part of us still believes that to rise is to betray something sacred. We inherited this conflict, between the soul that longs to become, and the voice that warns, who do you think you are? Jung called this the split between the persona and the shadow. The mask we wear in public, and the raw truth buried underneath. We sabotage what we most desire not because we hate it, but because we fear what it will demand of us. The root of our hesitation isn't laziness, it's shame. A deep, ancestral guilt for wanting more than survival. Nietzsche saw this clearly: society, in its need to control, teaches us to tame our instincts, to be good, to be humble. But in doing so, we learn to castrate our will. We bury our ambition beneath politeness. We become moral out of fear, not wisdom. Machiavelli didn't flinch from this truth. He saw that most men would rather be accepted than powerful. That we trade potential for approval. And so, we dim our fire. Not because we lack strength, but because we've been trained to be ashamed of it. Every decision you make is shaped by scripts you didn't write. You think you're choosing freely, but behind every hesitation, there's an invisible voice. A memory of being told to sit down, to quiet your dreams, to not stand out. These messages sink deep. Over time, they become you. You call it, just how I am. But it's not. It's programming. Viktor Frankl wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom. But most of us have no space left. We react. We defend. We flee from silence, because silence echoes with the truths we've buried. With the lives we could have lived. There is a fracture inside every one of us, a split between who we are, and who we were told we should be. On one side, the sovereign self, bold, instinctive, unashamed. On the other, the conditioned self, polite, pleasing, safe. We think this is normal. But this split bleeds into everything: our work, our relationships, our sense of purpose. Gabor Maté reminds us that the body keeps the score when the soul is silenced. And so we ache. We procrastinate. We numb ourselves. Not because we lack willpower, but because a deeper part of us is still asking for permission to live. And until we face that internal conflict, we'll keep calling fear by other names: balance, kindness, humility. What if the enemy you've been fighting your whole life was never out there? Not your job. Not your partner. Not the economy. What if the real battlefield is within, hidden behind the polite smile, the "I'm fine," the endless distractions? You keep running from chaos, not realizing its growing roots inside you. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Look closely: your addictions, your self-sabotage, your procrastination, they're not the problem. They're the symptoms of something much deeper, something you've been afraid to face. Most of what you call personality is actually protection. A costume stitched together in childhood, designed to keep you safe, loved, accepted. But the price of belonging was high. You had to silence parts of yourself, your anger, your truth, your power. Gabor Maté reminds us that trauma isn't just what happens to you, it's what happens inside you, when who you are becomes too dangerous to express. So you buried it deep. And now, as an adult, you wonder why you hesitate, why you shrink, why something always pulls you back. But how can you fly if you're still punishing yourself for having wings? We say we fear failure. But what we truly fear is responsibility. Because if you really recognized your own power, if you really accepted that you are the one shaping your life, then you could no longer blame anyone else. That would mean no more hiding behind trauma, no more pointing to the past. It's easier to call yourself broken than to rise. Easier to self-destruct than to become sovereign. Because sovereignty comes with weight. With solitude. With the death of old stories. Viktor Frankl said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." And that is the true terror, transformation. Look into your daily patterns. Not just what you do, but why you do it. Do you reach for your phone when silence creeps in? Do you fake confidence while your soul screams? Do you chase achievements, hoping they'll finally quiet the voice that says you're not enough? That's not ambition, it's avoidance. You're not chasing success. You're fleeing from the unbearable intimacy of meeting yourself. The shadow, the repressed, rejected part of you, knows your name. And it's been waiting. Not to destroy you, but to complete you. This is the turning point. The place where the old self begins to crack. No more numbing. No more pretending. The world will reflect whatever mask you wear, until you take it off. And yes, it will hurt. Confronting your inner ruins always does. But in those ruins lie the seeds of everything you were meant to become. Jung said, "The gold is in the dark." So go into the dark, not as a victim, but as a seeker. Burn the lies. Question your stories. Sit with the silence until it tells you the truth. There comes a moment, quiet, raw, when running is no longer an option. When you've exhausted every escape, every excuse, every performance. And in that stillness, something shifts. You stop asking the world to fix what only you can face. This is not about perfection, or some instant transformation. It's about recognition. The moment you finally say, "This is mine. This pain. This pattern. This silence. It's mine." That's where healing begins, not in answers, but in ownership. To look inside is to meet what you've spent years avoiding. Your anger. Your fear. The part of you that feels unworthy. But what if these fragments aren't flaws to be erased, but messengers to be heard? Carl Jung taught that true integration comes not from rejecting the shadow, but from welcoming it, standing with it, face to face, heart to heart. The child who wasn't seen. The teen who felt too much. The adult who pretends. All of them are still inside, waiting to be chosen. Not judged. Not silenced. Chosen. This is the responsibility of waking up. You can no longer hide behind ignorance. You see how your choices echo. How your silence costs. How your wounds shape others. And while that might feel heavy, it's also liberating. Because it means you're no longer a puppet of the past, you're the author of the present. Viktor Frankl reminds us that even in the worst circumstances, the last of human freedoms is the ability to choose your attitude. You may not control what broke you. But you do control what you build from the pieces. The real transformation isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It happens when you drop the mask, not for the world, but for yourself. When you stop performing, stop seeking validation, and finally say, I see me. That's the beginning of power. Not dominance over others, but presence within yourself. Machiavelli wrote about controlling the outside world, but the deepest revolution is internal. When you rule your inner kingdom, the world outside can no longer conquer you. There's no magic formula. No 10-step checklist to becoming whole. There is only awareness. Repetition. Compassion. And the daily, deliberate decision to face what hurts, to honor what's real, and to live without apology. The Supreme Self isn't arrogant, it's rooted. It doesn't shout, it simply is. You don't need to be better than anyone. You only need to be fully you. And that takes everything. There is no final truth, only deeper layers to uncover. The journey back to yourself is not a straight line, but a spiral. Some days you'll feel powerful, other dias você vai sentir que voltu ao inicio. E tudo bem. Because awareness is not a destination, it's a way of being. The Supreme Self we spoke of, isn't a role you play. It's the self you uncover, moment by moment, as you stop performing and start witnessing. So here's the invitation, as you move through today, watch yourself. Observe your tone, your reactions, your distractions. When do you shrink? When do you lie? When do you reach for your phone, your food, your smile, just to avoid a feeling? No need to judge. Just notice. Because every unconscious act is a map back to the wound, and every moment of awareness is a doorway to liberation. Real change doesn't happen in grand gestures. It begins in the quiet decision to no longer abandon yourself. You can keep repeating the old script. Or you can pause. Breathe. And choose a different response. One that comes from your core, not your conditioning. This is the call, not to hustle, not to prove, but to wake up. To stop waiting for permission. To walk as if you remember, none are greater than you, and no one can walk your path but you. If this message resonated with you, like this video, leave a comment with what hit you hardest, and share it with someone who's ready to remember who they are. And if this content spoke to your soul, watch the next video that's about to appear on the screen. It might be exactly what your spirit needed to hear today.